Okay, so Shirley is now live on Netflix. Okay, this is the new film written and directed by John Ridley. And I mean, you know, John, he's done a lot of stuff, right? A lot of stuff. So we know if his name's attached to something, could be worth checking out, right? Could be worth checking out. The film is produced by Elizabeth Haggard, uh, Anika McLaren, even doo- doo- doo, Regina King, Rena King, and John Ridley. It's executive produced by Jeff School and Ted Gidlow. It's associate produced by Danielle L. Ross and line produced by Laila Yakub. Tamar Callie handles the music, while Ramsey Nickel was on cinematography. Joanne Yarrow edits the piece. Like Kimberly Hardin, she took care of the casting. Dina Goldman was on production design. Danny Brown, art direction. Probably not the rapper. John J. Bush, set decoration, along with Imogen Lee. Megan Coates took care of costume design. And our cast. Well, Regina King. She plays. She plays Shirley Chisholm. Right? Uh, dun, dun, dun. Michael Cherry played her husband, Conrad Chisholm. Right? We've got do, do, do. Yes, Charlene Willis plays her mother, Ruby St. Hill. Her sister, Muriel St. Hill, is played by her sister, Rena King. Right? Who else do we have? We've got Lance Reddick. The great Lance Reddick was Wesley McDonald Mack. Wesley McDonald Mack Holder, right? Arthur Hardwick Jr. is played by Terrence Howard. Lucas Hedges plays Robert Gutierrez. Stanley Townsend is played by Brian Stokes Mitchell. Barbara Lee, right? Barbara Lee is played by Christina Jackson. Walter Fultroy is played by Andre Howard. Andre Holland, even, sorry. Ron DeLooms is played by Dorian Mizik. Dina Carroll is played by Amara Van. George Wallace, played by W.L. Brown. Brad James plays Huey Newton. Ken Stroke plays Congressman McCormick. Becca Cravats is Beth. Colsterman is played by Corey Hardin. Arnold Pickney is played by Rob Grant. Right, Maggie is played by Michaela. Oh shit! Michaela Whitman is Maggie, the great Michaela, who we've had on the podcast. Yeah, I think there are most of our major players. Coulson is played by Richard Hagerman. Yeah, they're probably our major players. Leroy, played by Elliot Young. So the gist of the story. The gist of the story. The intimate portrayal of trailblazing political icon Shirley Chisholm, the first black congresswoman and the first black woman to run for president of the US, and the cost of accomplishment for Shirley herself. This film will tell the story of Chisholm's boundary breaking and historic presidential campaign based on exclusive and extensive conversations with family, friends, and those who knew her the best. So, yeah, that's what this is, right? And, I think it really does a good job of kind of letting us know about what was happening, because like Rusting, Chisholm's name is one that doesn't come up a lot, right? I mean, I didn't know it at all, to be honest with you. I didn't know it. So I think these kind of things are important in giving us some history. Now, you always should then go on and do more, right? Do more reading. There's stuff that isn't there, you know? It's a film. It's just under 2 hours. So it's not gonna cover everything. It's not gonna get every little detail correct, but it sets a foundation. And I think this did a very good job of that, right? We open up and we have these graphics showing, right, what the makeup of Congress at that time, you know, what it looked like. And then it breaks it down, right? It breaks it down into how many of these are women, right? How many of these people are of color? How many are black, right? And there was none, none until Shirley Chisholm. So I think that's really useful. It set it again, it set a foundation. So you'd be like, okay, right, the importance of what is going on, right? What is actually happening, right? And then when we then get into the film, right, and we have Shirley and Conrad, they're walking, and someone's on these steps, right? What you realize, it's the introduction to the members of Congress. So she rushes over, joins the photo. Yeah, the only black woman there, right? And we see other situations at the beginning while she's, it's just focusing on the Congress chapter of her life, right? She gets confronted by someone being like, "Ah, I can't believe we make the same money." And he literally, suppose he says it to her every time he sees her. You know what I mean? So there's all of these different things, right? Until one night, she announces, after a call at the house by Arthur and Mac, that she's going to run for president. She's going to run for president. So it's, it's something that does get you kind of pumped, right? It does get you emotionally invested, right, in these certain parts of the film, right, which you feel like, oh yeah, that's stirring, that's rousing, that's that's great, that's great, that's a moment. And that, you know what I mean, like, it's not an easy thing to do. That's not an easy thing to do, people. So I will say this: the acting, really good. We have some really good acting here. I mean, Regina motherfucking King, right? Regina King, who is great. So, it's always good to see her like deliver an outstanding performance. Lance Reddick, I don't believe this was his last ever role, but it's probably one of them. And it's always good to see someone go out well. I remember with, oh God, what was it? Maya, was it Maya Ruth's Black Bottom? Something like that. Which was Chadwick Boseman's last ever role. And just before that came out, I was thinking, oh man, I hope it's good. And it was outstanding. He was tremendous in it. So it's always good when, you know, the one of the last things someone did, or you'll see of theirs, new things that you'll see of theirs, and they're really good. And Lance, yeah, he was really good as Wesley. He was like Terrence Howard puts out a very good performance. Lucas Hedges, right? Christina Jackson, like Michael Cherry, like just man, we got these great performances. So we got that. The cinematography is good. The direction was good. Everything was good. Certain things were frustrating though, right? Like you know, the as I mentioned, we had these graphics at the start of the film, but they're fucking tiny, right? They're tiny. And then throughout the film, it will be like you know, 1971, just before this, or 1972, 6 months before or 3 months. We have these things that will pop up, right? In the middle of the screen. Right, we've got this full big screen, and in the middle, in like, I don't know what font size is on, like 7, Arial fucking 7. We have this thing giving us a date, and it's just what you have all of this fucking space. Why use the smallest motherfucking font you could find? Makes no sense. With the graphics at the middle, at the beginning, why such tiny ass font? Have it narrated. What it always baffles me why we resort to this shit. I don't know why. It's ridiculous. It's fucking ridiculous. You know, there's no real need for it, right? There's no real need for it. It's ludicrous. It really is. And it keeps on happening. Keeps on happening, people. But yeah. So that was frustrating. Another thing that was a little bit, I felt it was a bit of a shame, right? Because look, we know there's all of this stuff going on, right? You know, shown in the beginning with the guy, the other, you know, congressman, like going, "Oh, I can't believe I'm making the same as you," right? So we know there's this animosity towards her. We know there's this animosity of her running, but it doesn't really show it. Doesn't really show it, right? Everything is pretty smooth up until a point with the political race. You know, and I thought just on a day-to-day basis, life in the 70s is not smooth, right? It's not smooth now, and it is magnitudely better than what it was. So to not have anything was a bit weird, kind of diminishes what was actually going on a little. You know, like, look, I know what's going on. There's a lot of people that might not, right? Younger audience won't. So I just thought we could have shown more here. Also, right? It's again at the end of the film, there's all this text. It's all this fucking text, right? And the problem with Netflix, when you pause, it doesn't just give you a blank screen so you can read anything, but you've got the fucking, you know, Netflix film title, blah, 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 that's superimposed there. So that might be obscuring anything that you actually want to read. So it's a pain in the ass, but we have all of this text about certain of our characters. right? And so it gives us some information about Shirley and Conrad, which, I mean, you you do get a vibe of, right? You get a vibe of, and there's one bit in the film where they show this argument, but then nothing else, and I thought that was a little bit odd, right? You know what I mean? We're just kind of brushing this under the carpet, as it were. Then in that same bit of text at the end, it tells you something else. And I'm just like, okay, if that happened in the same year, something else must have happened, because that doesn't just happen. You don't go from one thing to the next just like that with nothing, right? So what? Show it. There's all of these things play into who someone is, and you don't have to be perfect. We don't have to be perfect to do good, to fight the right fight. There can be character flaws. There can be things that you do that, you know, maybe it's not your best, right? But it just happened. You did it. Okay, that's life. We get it. So show that, right? There's also something with Barbara, right? In the film, like, especially after what happens with Ron, Barbara's just like, yeah, fuck Ron, essentially. I paraphrase, right? But then if you actually do your reading, she goes on to serve as Ron's aide. No, I mean, not his aide, he's chief of staff. That's it. Yeah. She serves as his chief of staff, right? So I think having something with Ron at the end may have been good, right? Him and Shirley talking something. There's also it shows it, in the text at the end, they're still friends, right? So give us something else which then helps that navigation afterwards for these people, because we know what happens, right? Because it's real life, right? So we know what happens, but show it, say it, give us something in the film, because the way that sometimes the film did gloss over a lot, did make certain things seem like they're all gravy, and they're not necessarily that, you know? So I thought Shirley was a, a good film in shining the light on someone we do not hear about, right? I thought that, boom, fantastic. It did, however, not go too deep on certain things, and I would have liked that. So, you know, I think it's not a film where you're going to be going back to it time and time again. You know what I mean? It's not that film, right? I don't think it's winning awards, but it's solid. It's definitely solid with some really good performances. You know what I mean? Really good performances. It shines a light. So I think it's worth a watch for sure. It's worth a watch. It's your gateway drug to discovering who Shirley Chisholm is. So for that, we salute you, John Ridley. We salute you. Just a shame that we just don't go a little bit deeper. A little bit deeper. There's the incident at the rally, right? With the guy. I kind of feel that probably wasn't the only attempt. That wasn't the only one. You know what I mean? But Yeah, I think we needed a bit more to really drive home some of the themes and situations and just, what it was of the time, what it was of the time. And you know, the detriment all of that can play on a social life, right? On a relationship. So, yeah. But people, yeah, I think if you enjoyed Rustin, you'll enjoy Shirley. So it's on Netflix. Let me know what you think.